The alibi I built for her. I've always been good at making people disappear without going anywhere. That's the whole trick of an alibi. Not a lie, exactly. More like a well-lit corridor people prefer to walk down, even when the darker door is ajar. My business card says concierge and protective services, but what I sell is plausible time. If you need a host to remember your face at a restaurant you never entered, a parking stub stamped at a garage you only circled, a meeting room that logs your badge while you're half a city away, I can make it happen. Years of working security taught me two things. Cameras have blind spots, and so do people. Leela said she loved that about me. "You notice the seam," she'd whisper, tracing a finger along my shoulder as if my body were a suit I'd tailored too clean. "You know where things are stitched together." She's a gallery producer, curation, budgets, donors, impossible egos, fluent in the language of light and timing. We fit because my world kept hers from breaking. She brought me into rooms with walls the color of champagne. I kept the wrong people from leaving fingerprints on the crystal. The night everything tilted started with a favor. She was at the kitchen island in a robe that refused to choose between careless and careful. The city hummed through our windows, distant and undecided. "I need to book a room," she said, voice casual in the way that makes you listen harder. "Not under my name." "That I can do." I chopped basil and tried not to feel the tone under her tone. "What's the story?" "Client privacy," she said, biting a smile. "A donor wants to preview pieces before the show opens. It's delicate." "Delicate how?" "Wife who thinks he hates art," she said, rolling her eyes. "And he loves everything else." I shrugged like a man unbothered by other people's marriages. "I deal in alibis, I'm not a priest." "Name." "Use yours," she said quickly. "We'll comp later." "You want me to attach my government name to some rich guy's extracurriculars?" "It's one night," she said, stepping close, basil and skin and that perfume that only smells expensive when it warms on her. "You'll be a ghost. I'll settle it tomorrow." I looked at her then, really looked. When Leela tells the truth, she holds my gaze. When she edits it, her eyes slide left toward the knife block. They did now. I told myself I was being paranoid. I told myself the basil mattered more. I wiped my hands and took out my phone. "Where?" She named a boutique hotel I've used for diplomats and singers who hate being recognized in their own songs. I texted a friend at the front desk a favor I would repay. A suite, corner view, untraceable housekeeping. Check-in at 7. Like a magician, I made a door appear. At 6:30, she asked me what time I was back from my rounds. "Late," I said. "You need anything?" "Just you," she said, and kissed me with a softness that tasted like apology. Work that night was light. A driver to the airport, a client who needed her ex's name removed from a dinner reservation, a broken keycard on a private floor. At 7:20, I texted Leela the room number 1806 and a photo of the key packet on my palm. She sent a single heart and the words, "You're the best," and somehow the heart felt like a receipt. I don't check on clients unless they ask. Distance is what they pay for. Still, at 9, a message came from the front desk guy. Guest for 1806 asked for extra ice. Not the donor. Younger, photographer type, pretty. He added a winking emoji I tried to read as meaningless. Photographer. Leela had been working with one for weeks, Jonah, with the kind of jaw that apologizes and gets forgiven. He shot her exhibitions like he was saving them from gravity. I'd met him twice. He called me man like a punctuation mark. I poured myself coffee and decided to count to 100. I got to 33 before the number stuck. At 9:14, Leela's location stopped sharing. The map went gray and said location not available, which is a sentence that should be printed on every wedding invitation. I could have let the night finish its shape. I could have kept the corridor lit. But some favors feel like you're being introduced to yourself. So I went to the hotel because I'm the man who makes doors appear, and sometimes you need to see what's behind one. The lobby smelled like bergamot and the future. I nodded to my friend, he lifted his chin, didn't ask. The elevator mirrored me back, a man who looked like a reasonable answer to a question no one had asked yet. On 18, the carpet went quiet and expensive. I heard a laugh I could identify blindfolded. Not the sound, that would be too neat. The rhythm. Leela laughs like she's falling, like gravity is a private joke. I didn't plan to knock. My hand did it before I told it not to. One rap, another, the pause of a coin flipping. The door opened half an inch on the chain. Jonah's face appeared in profile, thick brows, eyes still full of the world. He didn't recognize me at first. Yeah. Tell Leela I forgot to comp the room bar, I said, voice even, fake problem for a real reason. I need a card on file. Something in his expression shifted from inconvenience to survival. He closed the door, chain clicked, then opened it fully. Leela stood behind him in a slip the color of apology. For a second, none of us were people. We were grammar, subject, verb, object. Leo, she said, and my name in her mouth sounded like it belonged to a stranger. I can explain. No one has ever said that and then done it, I said mildly, because if I was calm enough I could delay imploding. You asked for an alibi, I gave you one. I didn't realize it was for you. It's not like that, she started, and then stopped, because the room contradicted her. The ice bucket sweated like a guilty brow. A scarf we left on the chair at home a week ago somehow lay curled on this bed's footboard. Jonah looked at the floor in the way decent people do when they're indecent by accident. He drew breath. I should go. You should stay, I said, surprising myself. No more disappearing. We do this with the lights on. We ended up around the low table like three students who'd all copied from each other and finally got caught. Leela tucked her knees under, trying to hide the slip without admitting it was there. Jonah poured water with the care you use when you think someone might explode if touched. Outside, the building across the street wore a neon sign like a wound. I didn't plan, Leela started, then let the sentence die. Honest, finally. It started with the show, late nights. I told myself it was work, and then I told myself you knew, and then I told myself it wasn't real because it was happening in stolen rooms. It's amazing, I said, the stories we tell ourselves when the truth would ruin the view. She winced, I know. Jonah met my eyes, he didn't flinch. I care about her, he said. I'm not proud of the context, but I'm not a thief. She wasn't yours to steal like that. The worst part was I respected him for not lying well. I'd spent years in rooms where men denied oxygen, not just facts. He looked like somebody who still wanted to breathe. I build alibis, I said. I made the room where you could do this. That's a new genre of humiliation, thanks. I asked for the room, Leela said. Don't hang that on him. I nodded. I'm not. I'm hanging it on me. I lit the corridor and then got mad you didn't use the darker door. Silence sat with us, polite as a fourth guest who doesn't take sides. Leela's eyes were wet, not pleading, not manipulative, just accepting. Tell me what you need, she said, voice small and sturdy at once. Truth, I said. No choreography. How long, how often, why? 5 weeks, she said, 3 times, because I felt seen in a way I missed, and then I realized the person I wanted to be seen by was you. It's a cliché. It's a mess. She looked down. I didn't stop because I didn't know how to say out loud that I'd started. And now, and now that I've said it, I can't believe I thought silence would keep us safe. Jonah drank water like it might help. I can go, he offered again, helpless and decent. This isn't my story to narrate. But you're on the page, I said, so listen. I told them both about the seam, about noticing, about the location share going gray at 9:14 like a curtain, about the front desk text I wanted to pretend meant nothing, about the million ways I've helped other people stage their exits and entrances, about how I'd never imagined building the trap I'd walk into. Leela reached for my hand and didn't take it. "Do you want me to leave?" she asked. No tremble, just readiness to obey the only rule that matters when you've broken the others, the one the other person writes. "I don't know," I said, because anything else would be performance. "I want to not be the person who looks at your mouth and sees a lock. I want to not make my living teaching doors how to lie. I want to be in a life where the only alibi we need is we were home." I looked at Jonah. "I want to not hate you because it's inefficient." He nodded, something relieved in it, as if hatred would have made this simpler but worse. "My ex," Jonah said quietly, surprising me. "She cheated. I'd tell you it made me principled. It didn't. It made me arrogant, like I knew the map and could avoid all the dangerous roads. Then I met Leela and thought maybe the roads weren't the problem." "You thought you were the destination," I said. He didn't argue. A phone buzzed on the table, not mine, not Layla. Jonah glanced and his face drained by a shade. "It's the donor," he said. "The actual donor. He's asking where the preview is." He turned the screen so we could see the message. A man's name that buys buildings and reputations in bulk. The lie we'd built had a client we'd neglected to invite. "Answer him," I said, instinct kicking to life where hurt wanted to lie down. "Tell him plans changed. Send him a link to a private drive with high-res files and a promise of an in-person walkthrough on Thursday. I'll make a call to his assistant in 10 minutes and be the phantom who apologizes for a scheduling mix-up." Leela began. "Because," I said, meeting her eyes, "we can end us without burning your work to the ground. Or we can decide not to end us and not start by setting a fire neither of us can afford. Both is a word. We can use it." We ran the play. Jonah typed with thumbs that juggled guilt and relief. I stepped into the hall, called the assistant, spoke in the voice I use when my client is invisible and the world can be convinced that's normal. The assistant sighed, grateful. Rich people love competent ghosts. By the time I went back in, the emergency had turned into a favor ode. We stood in the middle of the suite, a geometry problem with too many angles. "Here, what happens?" I said, because making plans is how I breathe. "I'm leaving now. You end this here. You go home in an hour. Tomorrow you talk to me with the sun up. Not at night when rooms make people fictional." Jonah nodded, reading the subtext. "I won't call," he said. "I won't show up. Whatever you two do next, it won't be around me." "Thank you," I said, strange to mean it. Leela walked me to the door, bare feet making small sounds like secrets leaving the room. "Can I touch you?" she asked, a sentence I'd never heard in our house, where touch used to be like breathing, assumed. I let her hand find my chest and rest there, not claiming, just locating. The warmth of her palm was a memory and a forecast. "I'm sorry," she said. "I know," I said, and the worst part was that I did. I slept on my office couch, a punishment that came disguised as professionalism. In the morning, I made coffee that tasted like a reasonable man. Leela came by at 9 with paper cups from the place I like where the barista writes names like endearments. We sat on a bench in the park where we once decided to move in together because a dog stole our lunch and we were too charmed to take it back. She didn't try to perform the rightness of anything. "If you ask me to leave, I will," she said. "If you ask me to stay, I won't mistake that for forgiveness." "What do you want?" I asked, because not asking had gotten us here. "I want to stop curating my life like a show," she said, eyes on the water. "I want the mess that breathes. I want to earn the right to put my head on your chest and not hear the echo of a room key. I want to tell you when I'm lonely before I tell anyone else. I want to be bored with you sometimes and think it's holy. And I want you to look at me like I'm not an exhibit you've already seen." "That's a lot of wants," I said. "I've always been greedy," she said, a small smile almost brave. I told her mine. "I want to keep doing what I do without turning our love into a series of cover stories. I want to be good at noticing and still choose to trust. I want to say no more alibis and only mean in our house. I want to be wanted by you when the lights are mean and the day is long and the basil is wilted. And I want to take you apart with my mouth like I'm memorizing a map." She flushed, laugh catching. Heat is a language you can speak without swearing. We kissed like people who remember and intend to keep remembering. It tasted like new furniture in an old room. We didn't solve it on a bench. We made a schedule for honesty. Sundays with phones off, Thursdays where one of us chooses the place without explaining. We went to counseling where a woman with silver hair told us about repair like it was carpentry. We changed nothing and everything. It wasn't cinematic. It was better, tedious and tender and not always fair. She sent Jonah a real goodbye I read and didn't edit. He replied with something gracious and ordinary. Then he was past tense. I keep building alibis for people who can't be where they say they are, but it's different now. I say no more. I say yes with conditions. I leave a little less magic in the corridors. Leela still lives in rooms full of light. Sometimes I stand at the back, hands in pockets, and watch her introduce a piece in that voice that makes donors admire their checkbooks. After she finds me, leans in, and asks me to take her home. We don't owe the night a performance. We give it what we want. Last week, a client asked for a room under any name but mine. I told him the rate doubled if I used my own. He balked. He paid. I handed him the key packet and looked at his face and saw the seam. "Do you want an alibi?" I asked. "Or do you want a plan for telling the truth later?" He blinked like I'd spoken a dialect with his name in it. "Is that part of the service?" "It is now," I said. On the way back to the office, Leela called. "I'm by your door," she said. "I brought lunch, and a scandal you're going to love to keep from happening." "Put it in the corridor," I said, smiling. "I'll come open the right door." "Don't you always," she said, and the laugh that followed cracked open the day like good light. I don't know if trust is a muscle or glass or something else entirely. I know this. We stopped pretending the seam wasn't there. We learned to touch it gently, to test its strength, to stitch when we can, to admire the scar when we can't. And at night, when she turns over and presses her leg between mine with that sleepy entitlement I'd missed without admitting, I think about all the rooms I've opened and all the ones I've closed. The best ones, it turns out, are the ones you live in with the lights on, where no one needs to disappear to feel seen.